So let's talk about the art of decontamination for a moment. This is one of the modules that we're going to cover in how to read and lead others with integrity. And the art of decontamination is all about the art and science of how to deliver, receive, or recover from difficult or challenging news. What do you do when you're being attacked by somebody, personally or professionally? When they're coming at you, they're emotional, they're angry, they're upset about something, whether it actually happened or not. You know, a lot of times these are debatable things, or sometimes we get attacked for something that we did and we made a mistake, but you know, the approach of the other person is still pretty harsh, and how do we handle that? Or what about the time someone, you know, accuses us of doing something we didn't do, but they're still emotional, they're still upset. How do we handle that? How do we neutralize the situation? How do we regain rapport with that person, or turn it around, or redirectionalize it into a more useful outcome? How do we do that? How do we handle that? In this section, we also are going to cover how to deal with a situation where you have an unwanted experience, and how do we process that in a way where we're not building up that negative or unwanted, what we call anchor or association with the other person. This often creates in NLP what we call a calibrated loop, where you have one kind of somewhat challenging interaction with another person. Maybe there's a little bit of friction, and then the next time you end up interacting with them, you begin to wonder, because it stood out before, oh my God, am I going to have that kind of situation with them again? And then it seems to happen again and again and again, and builds and spirals out of control. And in a professional setting, this can be catastrophic. This can cause you to want to leave a job, or switch careers, or get fired if that calibrated loop is between you and a manager, or or an executive that you're working with. It can cause team problems. It can cause, if you're the executive working with individual contributor, or one of your managers, or one of the people that you are in charge of, it can cause sabotage within your team. How do you handle that? How do you neutralize that? And how do you prevent it from happening in the first place? So Art of Decontamination is going to cover that. And we're going to give you bullet point by bullet point exactly what to do. When you need to deliver challenging news, how do you do it in a way where the other person not only doesn't feel put down by you, or doesn't feel put in a corner, doesn't feel attacked, but in a way that actually feels like you're on their side, you're working with them, and really leads them to, leave that interaction with the necessary feedback to improve their behavior, but also while maintaining rapport and that really good cohesive relationship with you that you've built up with them over time. Also, how to take that challenging feedback from someone else and quickly neutralize it, and then turn it around. And again, make them your buddy, keep them in good standing with you, and you in good standing with them. There's an art and science to doing this. So we're going to show you bullet point by bullet point exactly how to deliver the challenging news, how to recover from receiving the challenging news, what to do if you've already put your foot in your mouth, so to speak, and also, if you have a difficult interaction, how to process that in a way where you can walk back into the situation with that same person again, but be totally clean energetically and emotionally, so that when you go back in to speak with them again, it's like it never happened. It almost creates amnesia for that kind of friction point before. And when you can walk back into a situation with a fresh set of eyes, fresh set of kind of emotional stature, where you're walking in clean energetically and able to really be soft and open with them, you'll be amazed at what happens with the other person. Quite often they begin to wonder if that point of friction ever really even occurred, or maybe it was just in their own mind, or maybe it's just worth letting go, and then things are smoother. So all of the skills in how to read and lead others with integrity are really designed to economize your efforts throughout the day, personally and professionally, with yourself and with others, so that you are spending less time spinning your wheels doing things that don't work, and you really know very specifically and strategically what to do in these kind of challenging situations we all face on a day-to-day basis, so that you get the best possible outcome every time. And so that's what we're going to be covering in that section called The Art of Decontamination. And I'll give you one of the bullet points here right now. And that is, as we open up that segment, I like to start off by saying the messenger always gets shot. Now, we've always, heard people say, hey, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just delivering the news. But the reality of it is, if you walk into a situation and if I'm looking you in the eye and I deliver you a piece of bad news and that causes you to feel bad inside, that's going to get associated to, whoever you're looking at. And so, how are you able to go in and deliver that kind of news when you need to? Because if you're a leader or an executive or a manager, you have to give challenging feedback. If you're a parent, you have to give challenging feedback. If you are in a relationship with someone, romantic, friendship, or otherwise, you're going to have to give challenging feedback if you're being honest from time to time. It's going to happen. So how do you do it in a way where it doesn't create this kind of unwanted or negative feeling in the other person and maintains rapport at the same time? So we always say the messenger always gets shot, because if you are looking someone in the eye and delivering challenging news, that emotional state that wells up inside of them is likely to stick to you. And a great example of this is one of my clients was a funeral director. And this was a wonderful woman, very likable, very personable. And she worked in the same community that she lived in. And so think about what happens when you go to, a funeral home to do a viewing. You walk in, generally the funeral director greets you, looks you in the eye, maybe shakes your hand or touches you on the shoulder, gives you a hug and says, I'm so sorry for your loss. And so while you're experiencing this pain and this grief, they're looking you right in the eye and that feeling gets stuck to you. And I remember asking her, I said, I'm curious, how often do you see people, at the grocery store, at the library, at the gym, in your neighborhood, at the farmer's market, that you have done a service for maybe one of their family members? And she said, well, all the time. And I said, okay. And my next question is, how often do they say hi to you? And she kind of sunk her head down and said, almost never. And that's why now, of course, all of these people, if you had asked them individually, what do you think of the funeral director? They would have said, oh, she's a wonderful lady. She's a wonderful person, or what have you. But they were still avoiding her because the emotional connection between them and her was set up in such a way where it created this unwanted emotional state inside of them. And when they'd see her, it would fire off. So even though consciously, if you ask them, they would say, oh, I love her, she's a great person, they still would avoid her. And this is not something we want to do in our personal relationships, in our romantic relationships for sure. And we definitely don't want to do it professionally, but we need to be able to give people feedback to correct behavior. And so this whole section called Art of Decontamination is so critically important. It's just one of the pieces that we're going to cover in how to read and lead others with integrity. So I hope to see you there.